Yours truly, Brevin Thompson, is back this time to talk about Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny, which was directed by James Mangold and once again stars Harrison Ford as the famous archaeologist that we all know and love. The film takes place in 1969, and Indiana Jones is about to retire from his teaching position as a professor at Hunter College. He later bumps into his goddaughter Helena Shaw, who's played by Phoebe Waller-Bridge, and they later embark on an adventure to find the Archimedes Dial, which is said to have the power to travel through time. Also searching for the dial is former Nazi scientist Johann Voller, who's played by Mads Mikkelsen, who wants to find the dial and use it for his own evil purposes. I'm a huge fan of the original Indiana Jones trilogy. It's pretty much perfect in my eyes. Kingdom of the Crystal Skull was a massive letdown for so many fans. So, with this being the first film in the franchise not to be directed by Steven Spielberg, and Harrison Ford coming back for this one, also being directed by James Mangold, who recently directed Logan and Ford v Ferrari, I was very curious to see how this one will turn out. I know this was not going to be as good as the original trilogy, but I went in hoping that this would at least be better than Kingdom of the Crystal Skull. And to my surprise, I really enjoyed Dial of Destiny. It does have a few issues, but I want to discuss my positives first. It really is a treat to see Harrison Ford put on the hat again as Indy. He gives it his all in this film, and I really like the arc that they give this character. I'm pretty sure most of you have seen this in the trailers and heard a lot of people talk about Harrison Ford being de-aged in the opening prologue for the film. I think for the most part, most of it looks alright, although there are moments where it could be distracting in certain moments, and if you see the film then you know what I'm talking about. In my eyes, the de-aging didn't look that bad. But then after that prologue, we see Indy in the 60s. He's much older now. He's dealing with personal struggles in his life, but then later, after he bumps into Helena, and then they later embark on this journey to find the dial, there are moments where you see Indy in certain action sequences, like a couple chases here and there, but he doesn't really get into too many fights. With Harrison Ford being 80 years old at this point, it wouldn't be too believable to see Harrison Ford fighting some big dude, because there is a big dude in this film, but to many disappointment, including myself, he doesn't get into a fight, which I'm a little back and forth on, because part of me is glad that he doesn't fight a big dude in this film, and there's part of me that's disappointed that he doesn't fight some big dude in this film, because it's part of the Indiana Jones formula, because he eventually fights some big motherfucker. Overall, when it comes to Harrison Ford, he's really one of the few things of the film that you can't really pick apart, so he's damn good in the film as Indy. When it comes to the action, which most of us are there to see, it's acceptable for the most part. There were 3 sequences that stood out for me. There was the prologue during World War II, which I think was handled quite well. Despite some of the de-aging effects on Harrison Ford looking hit and miss for the most part, but it was fine. There was the ticket tape parade chase in New York, which I thought was beautifully shot, and I love the moments where you see Indy on a horse. And there was the tuk-tuk chase, which goes on a little bit too long in certain moments, but it was entertaining to watch. But for the rest of the action in the film, it's pretty basic. And John Williams' score is beautiful. It was great to hear that classic Indiana Jones theme once again. And even though I thought he was originally going to retire after scoring this film, he happily announced that he would continue to film scores as long as he can, which makes me so happy. I love everything that John Williams does. I thought Mads Mikkelsen as the main villain, Voller, was a much more utilized villain than Spalko was in Kingdom of the Crystal Skull. And really, when you have Mads Mikkelsen as the main villain of your film, you're guaranteed to have a big win. Although there is a lot of aspects in the film that I like, there are some that I'm a little bit mixed on. In particular, Helena Shaw, who is played by Phoebe Waller-Bridge. I think that for the most part, how they utilize her, there's moments where how her character is handled in certain situations There are moments where you don't like the character, and there are, of course, moments where you begin to warm up to her. I kind of had that effect, but I won't go into too much detail about like what goes on because it involves a lot of spoilers. There's a kid psychic that she has named Teddy, who I thought was nothing more than a knockoff of Short Round, honestly. And although it was great to see John Rhys-Davies back as Sala, he doesn't really have much screen time, which disappointed me. Although this film uses a good mix of both practical effects and CGI, there are moments where they over rely too much on CGI in certain sequences, and I wish they would have like used more practical effects like the original trilogy did. It's not as bad as like Crystal Skull was, but I wish they dialed down the use of CGI just a tad bit in this film. Even though I'm pretty sure most people might like or mostly hate this film, I'm pretty sure a large majority of people might be a little bit split on what happens in the third act. Uh, I won't say what happens at the end, but what happens at the end, it wasn't what I expected. I did not expect it to end that way, but by the very end, when that did happen, I didn't walk away feeling upset. I at least felt somewhat satisfied. Outside of a few issues regarding some characters and certain directions in the story and a little overuse of CGI, this was pretty much an enjoyable Indiana Jones film. Although it's not the conclusion that I would want for this franchise and for this character, because I consider The Last Crusade a much more satisfying finale for the franchise. This is somewhat a much more enjoyable Indiana Jones film. Not as enjoyable as Last Crusade, but it's much more enjoyable, it's much more entertaining, and much more investing than Kingdom of the Crystal Skull was. So that's a win for me. So I'm going to give Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny a B. So what did you think of the film? Let me know in the comments below. And guys, thank you so much as always for watching. Looking forward to doing more videos really soon. And if you want my thoughts on old or new films, of course, you know where to find me.